I was looking at my calendar the other day for who knows why, what reason, and I thought it was quite interesting. Oh. So, actually it wasn't uplifting. So, here's January, February, March, April. I mean, so birthdays and anniversaries, those are not canceled. So, 2020. All right, hello. Welcome to Charlotte's House Knitting and Sewing Podcast. My name is Charlotte, and I am coming to you from the shores of Lake Charlevoix in northern Lower Michigan. And I recorded this podcast last week, and the day before I'd been having just a day, as I would imagine most of us are during this lengthy quarantine that everyone is in. And it kind of reflected in my video the next day. I was coming back up out of it, but I decided that I was going to redo it. And we're in a much lighter and more positive mood today. So I just felt that that one needed to be sidelined, and I'll show you all the stuff again. But for you, it's the first time. Anyway, so let's see, what is today? Today is Wednesday, April, I think it's the 29th. Yep, April 29th. I did keep, I think I'm going to keep the clip of where I showed you my calendar, so that should have been the cold open for this episode. I have lots and lots of things to show you. So this doesn't mean I'm a super crafter. I've been spending, I don't know, some days I spend a few hours a day knitting or crocheting, and then other days I don't do any. So it's been 3 months, I think, since my last podcast, so that's a lot of time to get things done. So let's get started. I've got finished objects, fixed objects, I should say. They were finished before but had problems. And so those have all been fixed. I have a brand new finished object. I have works in progress, things that I've cast on. Since this a little cast-on-itis set in, of course, those of you with 40 works in progress are not going to be fazed one bit by the fact that I've cast on 3 things during quarantine. Okay, so yes, lots of finished projects, some works in progress, some sewing to update you on and talk about, and then I've got loads of gardening. But what I think I will do, especially since garden season is quickly approaching, some of you are just here for the knitting and you tolerate the sewing. That's completely fine. I'm welcome to have everyone here, but not everyone necessarily is into gardening, so I might do, I've shown you my garden before, I'm pretty sure. So what I might do is start a little on the side gardening episode. And because I've got loads of plants in the house, our house has become a greenhouse. And I have plans for new garden beds outside and things, and it is only April. Last year at this time we had 3 feet of, and I'm not exaggerating, 3 feet of snow on the ground at the end of April last year. So the daffodils are blooming this year. The magnolia tree right out my window is about to blossom. So we are well ahead of last year. But when you're a gardener in the northern climates where it's 6 months between green grass and leaves on the trees, you get antsy to get started. But let's get started with the fixed and repaired finished objects. So this one I've talked about many times. This is the Magnolia Summer. It's a Magnolia sweater, but I think the short sleeve version is called Magnolia Summer. I've already shown the pattern, all that stuff, so But here it is, finished. Well, I'll put it on for you because if you watched my last episode, you will recall that there was a serious fit issue. Okay, so here we are. Again, the top was gorgeous. The size is perfect. I love this yarn. It is a, I don't know if it's just straight up mohair. I've already talked about the yarn. Something Owl from Texas. Beautiful yarn, and I held it double with Shibui Silk Cloud in Ash, I think is the colorway. No, that was the gray. I can't remember what colorway it is. I've already talked about it. The point of this to show you is that if you recall when I first finished it, it was, so here's my belt. It was, I guess it would have been fine, but for me and moving around, it was too short. So I decided, okay, I'm going to cut it in half, which I did, and maybe if I'm feeling crafty today, it is raining, so I've got lots of time to edit, but we'll see if I have the patience for it. I cut it in half, added 2 inches, and then grafted it back together. Well, the Kitchener did not go very well, but I do know why. It is because the top half that I added the 2 inches to was on the needle. The bottom half I had put on scrap yarn, and I just left it on scrap yarn and said, well, why do I have to put this on a needle? I'll just Kitchener it off the scrap yarn. Well, that didn't work very well. We all saw what happened when you try to take a shortcut, because I ended up with, and the Kitchener looked really nice, but I ended up with 22 extra stitches. And so I tried to decrease and fudge it in, and you had a little pucker with like this thing that stuck out like that. So that obviously was not going to work. And also the yarn, because this is, you know, hand-dyed yarn, these black stripes occur because I did not alternate skeins. It's not the end of the world, it's fine. But the third skein of yarn had very little dye, so this part was mostly white. And I thought, well, this just looks a mess. So, took it apart again, put both sides, and I started in one spot and then counted, I don't know, like 25 stitches, let's say, and put a marker on top and bottom, all the way around. Both sides were on needles, and it's fine. Again, it's a little wider. You can see striping. At this point, it's wonderful. So it turned out really nice. I'm happy with it. It's so warm, even for a short sleeve sweater. I absolutely love it. And the only other thing about this sweater, and at this point it's just the way it is. However, this beautiful, beautiful pattern. I've got my lights on today because it's so dark, but they are really making the gray. This is not, I don't know, let's just see what happens if maybe we'll do that. I'll only leave one on. So, see these beautiful, this flower pattern? Well, they're supposed to have these bobble guys right here. The buds on the flowers are supposed to be sticking out. Well, obviously, I did those backwards somehow because they're all on the inside of the sweater. And I'm not going to redo it. I almost thought I would pop them from the back and then tie yarn around them to make them stick out. But you know what? At this point, that's just how it is. That's just how it is with the sweater. But very, very happy with it. I have to remember to look at the camera. So, there we go. Fixed object number 1. Fixed object number 2. You may recall, unless this is your first episode, the crocheted cropped sweater So the version that you last saw came completely out because that was the small medium size. The pattern only had 2 sizes. So it's really, you know, not the best pattern when you only have a small medium or large extra large. Well, I really needed a medium large is what I needed, but small. So I started making the small medium because extra large was just going to be way too big. And that's what we ended up with. Took it apart, remade it, and crochet is so fast. Crochet is so fast. I think I had the whole, within 3 hours I was back, the sweater was made again without the sleeves. I mean, crochet is so fast, especially with bulky yarn. So I have finished it. This is from an issue of Inside Crochet magazine. I used to get it, and I'm in my craft room again. I have new shelves. I'll give you the tour. This is not the issue this sweater is from, but I just wanted to show you. I get the magazine digitally now, but this magazine, I would highly recommend it. I really like it. It's also a British publication, so it's a little taller than American publications. The paper's different. I don't know, I really like the feel of it. It's stiffer, but, so that's the magazine, Inside Crochet. And here is a finished cropped sweater. And the whole point of making this sweater, you may recall, was to use up yarn. I think I had 4 skeins left over from making the fitted dress, which I love very much. And so I wanted to make a project. Instead of making 5 hats out of this, I decided, oh, I'll make this sweater. Well, I ended up having to buy 5 more skeins in order to use up my scraps to make the sweater. But, so I took the small, like it came to here on me, crop top apart, and made the large extra large. It's lovely. It fits perfectly. I also added 3 rows to the length. I mean, and it still hits me right here at the belt. I mean, that sucker was up here. So I don't know, I'm still searching for a nice dress pattern that has the high waist that you can wear, that looks awesome with the crop sweaters, because I'm certainly not going to wear it with my stomach hanging out. So I love it. This is the large extra large. Normally I wear size 10, right around there. So the sizing is interesting. Very, very happy with it. Nice little balloon sleeve. I also added 3 or 4 rows to the arm, so it fits very nicely on the arm. I think in the pattern the arm was meant to be just past the waist, but you know, as you are allowed to do, you modify things to how you want to wear it. So the only thing, so let's see, I do have, so from 4 skeins plus another 5 skeins, so I bought 4, and then I thought, well, this will surely be plenty. Got the whole sweater remade, 1 sleeve done, I was out of yarn. 1 sleeve took an entire skein of Lion Brand Thick and Quick yarn. Crochet uses a lot of yarn. But this is it. This is all I have left. So, but I highly recommend it. And this was a concern I had with the fitted dress, was when you have a bulky yarn. She used, the pattern called for a single ply, and I thought, well, that's just going to be a Swiffer mop. I mean, you wear it once and it's going to be all felted and the stuff's coming off. So that was a concern, and I've worn this sweater 5 or 6 times already. And in the obvious areas under the sleeves on the sides, you are getting the felting You see that? And there's, of course, dog hair. So, I don't know, for the amount of times I will wear the fitted dress, because it's such a statement piece, you know, I can't wait to wear it. I was going to wear it to a fundraiser this winter, but we ended up not being able to go. So, but yeah, I really like it. I would highly recommend it. I will put the patterns down in the show notes, even though I've already talked about them, but let's see. So are those were the two things that had to be, and I fixed those right away after my last podcast, and I was ready to podcast again in 10 days, and I just never got around to it. Now we're on to brand new finished objects. You've seen this as a work in progress. This is the Dog Walker by Plucky Knitter. And I was on a mission this winter to stash bust to get through my yarn. So I went through and I found 6 skeins that would do a nice fade, which is, you know, I usually only buy 1 skein at a time. If I really like a hand-dyed yarn, I'll just buy 1 skein because, well, what if I don't know that I'll need 3, and if I don't have an exact pattern in mind, I'm not going to buy a sweater's quantity. So I've got a lot of 1 skein wonders in my stash. But luckily, when you pretty much gravitate towards the same thing every time you go shopping, you more than likely will have yarn in your stash that will fade and go together, which is what happened beautifully in this sweater. So, let me see. Are you ready? I'm in love. I'm in absolute love. So all of these skeins were just 1 skein yarns, different dyers, and I held them together throughout. And that's a really good picture there. I love this. This is 2 skeins of yarn held together. This is fingering weight yarn. I made the worsted weight pattern holding 2 skeins of fingering yarn together. This color is a result of 2 different dyers and their yarns being held together. And I loved it. I love it so much. I dyed up some DK yarn for Roberta Ray fibers that looks pretty similar to this. Maybe I'll insert a picture if I'm that on top of things today. I think it's called Winter Sweater. I can't get enough of these. I am making this. I wanted to order a sweater's quantity of each one of these yarns and make a whole sweater out of it. So, very quick pattern to make. Very quick. Let's see. Get it on the right way. So, here we are. I love it. It's nice and roomy when you just need a relaxed sweater. I'm sure I added length to the arms. But again, what I did for that, I think I followed the pattern for the length, which you can tell is longer than what I usually wear for a sweater. But for this style, it's perfect. I did add some length to the sweater. I have a previous sweater that I'll turn that off, that I made, that I love the arm length, so I just measure from the armpit down, and that's how long I make my sleeves now. So yeah, I don't know. what else to say about it other than I love it. I've already gone through all the yarns on a previous podcast, but I did 50%. So the first two yarns I held double. I carried the very first one in the color fade until I used 50% of it. Then I dropped it and held the second color with the third color until the second color had 50% left. Dropped it. Then I carried the third color with the fourth color until there was 50% left of the third color. Dropped it and then went to the sleeves because I wanted to make sure the sleeves matched. So I used 50% of a color on the body, 25 and 25, and I counted the rows. So I had at one time, I kept markers on here for the longest time because I was going to show you, but then I didn't podcast and I wanted to wear it. So, so until you divide for the sleeves, you use 50% drop, 50% drop, 50% drop. When you divide for the sleeves, if you want your stripes to match on the sleeves, then you use 50% here, 25 and 25. And I had my little pocket scale and weighed it, and I also counted rows so that I would have equal rows on both sides. And so, but after two color work or fading sweaters in a row, because you remember the previous one was the blue one, I needed a break from having to weigh my yarn and keep track of it. So I love it. The dog walker, I'd highly recommend it, and it's warm in here. So that's coming off. Okay. Let's see. I think, pretty sure that's the only completely finished new object. So we've got works in progress. I had to cut in a little video here because there is one thing I did forget. Two finished objects. Well, one you might have already, one I can't even remember. One may have been finished, the other was not for sure. So I have shown you these. Arne and Carlos. This was from Knit Stars 3.0. Right now they do have 5.0 coming up. You can also buy any of the previous lessons if you would like, or there are lessons in it, but packages maybe I should call it. Anyway, so this was the first one I made, and let's see. So here we go. This is a pattern. It was exclusively on Knit Stars for Arne and Carlos. I made it out of don't even know where the yarn is. Rommel yarn. The Norwegian wool. I've shown it before. And so I have this pair, and then I made the second pair. This is the palm side. So I made two of these because my birthday was back in March, and it was the big 50. So on March 14th, I turned 50. And for 3 years, I had been planning a trip with friends. Didn't know where I was going to go, but it was going to be something to celebrate the big 50. And I settled on the knitting cruise with Arne and Carlos. And it just happened to take place. It was the Aurora Borealis cruise. And it was from north to south along the Norwegian coastline, and it was March 6th through the 14th with Arne and Carlos, and supposed to be able to see the northern lights. There were all these side tours tours to knitting mill or yarn mills and all these different things. And so two friends signed up to go with me. One was a knitter, Geraldine, who I've talked about a gazillion times. She and I own and run Roberta Ray Fibers. And then another friend, Penny, who does not knit, but there were plenty of other things to do if you didn't want to. But she's into history. There was a lot of history, Norwegian culture tours. She would have been totally into that. So as a gift to them for going on this cruise with me to Norway with Arne and Carlos, I made them each a pair of Arne and Carlos mittens out of Norwegian wool. And because I've already well, I haven't got to this part yet because I'm going to insert this, but the virus was starting to spread into Europe, and I am a high-risk person, which I'll explain later. And I had to cancel. I couldn't take the risk, especially having to go through 3 international airports to get to the start of the cruise. So unfortunately we canceled, which was a good thing because I followed along with them. And if you follow Arne and Carlos, you saw when they were on the cruise, and you saw their updates that halfway through the cruise, Norway closed its borders and people were no longer allowed off the ship at the ports. So they had to stay on the cruise ship whenever it came into port, and then immediately leave the country where we were supposed to have 2 nights in Bergen after the cruise. They had to leave right away and get out of there as soon as they could find a flight. And if you follow Arne and Carlos, you saw that even after the 2-week quarantine that the country imposed on them from traveling, Carlos did come down with the virus, and he was quite sick. He was not hospitalized, but he was quite sick, and it's taking quite a recovery time. So hopefully we will be able to go on the cruise next March. Hopefully they will reschedule it, but I'm sure that won't be possible before any global vaccine is available. I mean, they're just not, and it would be foolish to get on a cruise ship before a vaccine is available, and we've conquered the vaccine and moved on. But anyway, so I had to show these. That's why this video was so much shorter. And then I did make myself. I've made one for myself, and I tried to get really crafty and use 3 colors. Not successful. Gauge is a major issue, but this was my pair. I have not put the thumb in yet, but I could still put it on, I guess. But I thought, how awesome would it be to have a 3rd color? Well, from a distance, it's awesome, and I do really like it. I love the pop of color with the neutrals. Just tension. Of course, these have not been blocked. I've done nothing with them. Ends are not woven in. I haven't pulled anything. So yeah, obviously problems. And the inside is just a mess. So the jury is still out on whether or not these will be fixed. I should steam block it just to see what happens. It was a pain though, so I'm not looking forward to making the 2nd one with the 3rd color. But anyway, so there we go. More finished objects. Yay! Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Actually, there aren't any pattern instructions, so look. Isn't that just cute? The knotted hat. This is the current issue of Inside Crochet magazine. And I had this yarn. Where's the label? I've had this yarn for like 8 years. My sister-in-law and her husband had their first baby, and I was going to crochet a little sweater set, the little pants and the sweater, and that never happened, so I made him a quilt instead. So I've had this yarn forever. It is, and I'm sure they don't make it anymore, Naturally Caron, CARON.com. I'm sure I got it at Joann's. Spa. It's a silky soft bamboo blend. Oh, here we go. 75 acrylic, 25 rayon. Rayon from bamboo? I always thought rayon was completely synthetic. What do I know? Rayon from bamboo. I'm gonna have to look into that. So it's extremely soft. I had no idea it was mostly acrylic. I thought it was all bamboo. But anyway, isn't that just the cutest little thing? Some friends of ours had a baby boy. We haven't seen him yet because when he was born, we all had a gastrointestinal virus going through the house, and so of course we certainly weren't going to go over there with that. And then the lockdown happened, and now we still can't go. So I will put this in the mail, but I finished that. It's just the cutest little thing. The knotted hat from the current issue, which would be April, May, I guess, of Inside Crochet. Super easy, super quick, but I've got loads of yarn left, so I'm not sure. Oh, but that's the yarn label. It's 8 years old, so don't go looking for it. I'm sure it no longer exists. But anyway, so finished object. I cast on some socks. Now this is a project that I already had lined up, so you've seen the yarn, but I hadn't started it before my last podcast, but it's the Mercury socks. Very straightforward pattern. The pattern itself is very easy to follow, and I still keep it out for a reference so that I don't forget, but you pretty much are able to memorize it. And I'm using Uschitita Merino single, and then of course I'm halfway through my first sock and I thought, wait a minute, maybe a single 100% merino single isn't the best choice for a sock. Oh well, it's only yarn. So, but this is the lovely, and again it's really purple. On the first podcast it came up really purple. It's not this purple. Do you see on the top how it's mauvier? That's the real, it is not this purple in real life. It's more of this color up here. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful yarn. I've had this for a long time. I'm guessing that I bought this at Edinburgh Yarn Festival 2 years ago, is my guess. It's made in the Netherlands. Tiny Dancer is the colorway. And then once I realized that I was using a 100% merino single for my sock, I have some singles up here, and so, well, that's regular yarn, and then I have some singles of when Geraldine and I were first practicing with how to dye yarn, and it's, I don't even know what it is. It's Caron, probably bear yarn from Joann's or something. That we bought when we were first trying to figure this out and learn what's what. And I'm pretty sure this is Kool-Aid, but this is 100% wool, heavy-duty, scratchy yarn. Well, I wouldn't want this around my neck or my face, but it'll be fine for a sock. So I'm using this for my heel and toe. The two areas that get the most stress in a sock, I would say. So here is sock number 1. And I still have all my Oh no, I did thread those in. I just didn't have, they just need to be cut. Oh, and I have a drop stitch, so I gotta sew that in, no problem. But very nice. And again, this is not this purple. This is really super purple. Way back here. I wonder if I just turn this light, but I'm afraid if I, it didn't really help. Anyway, but it's just so dark in here without an extra light. Very happy with it. It fits quite well. I did the heel, it's a top-down sock, and I pretty much anyone I've watched talk about how they make socks, and people say, well, are you a toe-up or a cuff-down sock knitter? And every single person says, well, I learned on, and that's my favorite. So I learned on a toe-up. So toe-up is my favorite way to do a sock. The pattern is cuff down, which is fine. You know, I'm going to do it. And usually I do the afterthought heel, and this one has the heel flat gusset. So my original thought, which I don't even know why I wanted to do it this way, but I originally thought that I wanted the pink on the heel to go all the way down here until you resumed the pattern of the, you stopped decreasing and resumed the pattern of the sock for the foot. I have no idea why. For some reason I thought this flap would just be this tiny thing in the back, and I wanted the, so I started on the, I started and using the pink, and then it became glaringly obvious that that was not the way to go, because you can't carry your yarn all the way around if you're switching colors, and then you have to cut your yarn on every side. And I think I did 4 rows, maybe, no, I did 3 rows, and I said that's enough. So, and it turned out to be what you should do anyway. But it fits wonderfully. It is looser than I normally wear, and this part kind of scared me. I mean, that is much larger than I usually have for my socks. But I tried it on, and it is loose. I don't want this to stretch out in any shape, form whatsoever. But I'm very happy with it. They're very pretty, and I would recommend the pattern. The pattern's been around for a long time. I don't even know when it was published. It's Mercury Socks. Excuse me. Mercury Socks. Oh, I forgot to bring my coffee downstairs. Mercury Socks by McKenzie. She is Matilda Wormwood on Ravelry. Honestly, all I've had is coffee. And I started sock number 2. So, normally with socks, I like to do a section. Like, let's say I'll do the foot, you know, up to the increases for the heel, because I start with toe. And then I'll do the other sock, and then I'll do the heel, and then I'll do the other sock, and then I'll do the leg and finish it, and then the leg and finish it. But this one, it was so quick. It's a very quick pattern that I just kept going and did the whole thing. Okay, so another thing I cast on in a previous episode, I have no idea which one, it's been a while. I talked about this pattern, the Shibui knits. What is this even called? Athens Tank. It's knit in linen. And I started it, and you start at this bottom edge and work your way up. I think I got, I don't even know if it was 4 inches. And nope, not happening. Took it apart. And I think I had 4 skeins, and here's the yarn, Shibui Knits Reed, which is, and again, it's a beautiful, here you go, that's the color up here, beautiful grayish brown mud color. Mineral is the actual color name, 100% linen. Yeah, the lighting, need to be back upstairs in the natural light. I had 4 skeins of this, and I decided to make the Rebel Camille by TL Yarn Crafts. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, such a flattering neckline along the collarbone and then around the back to your shoulders. So flattering. And I thought this would be beautiful in the summer with linen. The pattern itself calls for DK weight, so I'm holding the linen, which is a fingering weight. Yep, I'm holding this double. And again, your choices are small, medium, or large, extra large. I need a medium large. But I'm doing, what did I decide on? I decided on the small medium, because it already seems quite roomy, and the 42-inch plus room was just too much fabric, too much. So we'll see. But then, of course, in order to make this pattern, I only had 4 skeins of yarn. In order to use up my 4 skeins of yarn, because I'm trying to use up my stash, I had to order 4 more. So, anywho, we've got it going. So this is where I am so far. Very happy with it so far. The pattern is very easy to follow, very straightforward. I prefer wood hooks, and I was using my wooden hook, but it's with the linen, the wood is so sticky and it was really slow going. So I had to order a 4.5 millimeter because apparently none of my sets that I have a 4.5 millimeter. But now we're just zipping along. The linen, you know, I don't know, linen is kind of weird. I don't know that I've worked with linen before. When you're first making it, it's not the snuggliest feel, but it's my understanding that it will bloom and soften as it's washed and worn and things like that. So far, and she has amazing, if you are a crocheter, check out TL Yarn Crafts Unravelry. Oh wait, no. I think she's on Ravelry, but she also has tlyarncrafts.com. There are a number of other patterns of hers that I would really like to make. So I cast that on. Fat Wool Co. project bag. What else did I cast on? Oh, okay. I should show you a quick clip here of the sweater. Okay. Well, you saw how much little yarn I had left, and I thought, oh my gosh, and I had it on a shorter, I don't like these long circular needles. I like a shorter circular needle. I got that tip from Levi at WTF Knitting, that it's so much easier just to keep going instead of constantly stretching things back and forth on a long needle. So I really couldn't see how voluminous that sweater actually was, and it's supposed to be a fitted sweater. And we've talked about gauge, and gauge, what am I swatching, which I don't do. And to be in full disclosure, I finally got burned by the no swatch stance. So this pattern said 22 stitches per inch. I was at 27. No. The pattern said 27 inches per stitch. I was at 22. So I was actually, for every 4 inches of the pattern, I was an extra inch larger than what, so I took it off. I mean, this thing was like flapping in the wind. So that's why I had so little yarn left, for one thing. And so it was like, oh, finally, swatchers won, non-swatcher burned. So there you go, full disclosure. So took it all out, went down a smaller needle size. I went down to the smallest needle size I have for my circular needle set. I also checked my carbons, and actually, I don't know if I did. I'll have to check the carbons. Anyway, and so I used the smallest needle I had, still came up with too many stitches, fewer stitches per inch. No, I'm all confused. Anyway, I had way too many stitches. My stitches were too big, and I couldn't get it down to fit to the size. So I ordered what I thought were smaller needles, like a 1.5 millimeter. Well, I ended up ordering, for my Chow set, which is my absolute favorite, it was the twist, but I didn't catch that I ordered the mini, which I don't have the mini set, and I didn't want the mini, so I ordered the wrong. But anyway, here's my sweater. However, so I don't know, this just obviously might not be the right yarn. So, and that was for the Poison Girls. I've got the pattern on my clipboard. That was for the Poison Girls Beauty School. And you can see there is no flopping looseness on this. It is a fitted sweater, so this yarn probably is not the best choice. So what am I going to use that yarn for? No clue. It'll go back in the stash. So that sweater is gone. However, while I was waiting for my needles that turned out to be the wrong needles anyway to arrive, I cast on a shawl. This yarn, I definitely bought it UIF 2 years ago. It's the Walk collection. She's from Germany, I believe. This yarn, Emerald Lagasse, if you ever watched the Food Network, like 10, 15 years ago when Emerald Lagasse was the bomb, he wanted smell-o-vision, so we need feel-o-vision, touch-o-vision for knitters, because this yarn, it's called Luxe DK, 70% alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. Yes. So I got 2 of the charcoal, and again, it's really purple in my white light. It's not purple. This is coming out really purple. Just gorgeous. And I thought when I bought this that I wanted to do a color work cowl, because why would you not want alpaca, silk, and cashmere? Of course, unless you don't like alpaca. Silk and cashmere around your face. Yeah. Oops, it's coming undone. Well, it doesn't matter. I need to skein it up anyway, or cake it up. Just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And I had a color work cowl picked out. I was kind of like, pattern's okay. I mean, the pattern's nice, but it wasn't like, yeah, that's the one I want to make. So I still had this. Again, I'm using yarn from my stash. I've had it for 2 years. And Isabell Kraemer came out with, just 2 weeks ago by now, I guess, a new shawl called the Rosa. And it's a triangular shawl, which is not my favorite shape, but what really caught my eye was that she used the leftover yarn from the shawl to make the Rosa cowl. And so then it was, bingo, that's what I want to use this yarn on. And it's one of those cowls that you could pull over your head and tie with a bow at the top of your head. It's really long, 17 inches long, and 26 inches wide is the cowl. And again, she used scraps from the shawl. Well then, and the shawl uses 3 colors. It's mostly the gray, as you can see. Then the second color is the white, and then it's hard to see on the picture, but that bottom edge is a 3rd color. Well, I added up my yardage, and I've got plenty of these 2 colors to make the shawl. And this is so dreamy and so drapey. I just said, and of course, you know, I've been stuck in the house at 5 weeks at this point, so I'm making a triangular shawl. So I cast it on, as one does. Very, very straightforward pattern. I'm, of course, getting to the part where you're doing each row's getting longer and longer and longer, and so you're getting through the row. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's just, if you're going to knit a project, you get to that point where you just got to get through the rows. So what I'm doing is, instead of doing all one color for the main body, like the picture that you saw, I'm alternating the rows. So here we are so far. So look, you can see how this pulls. Just the drape is amazing. So you start up here. I followed the pattern as directed. Put in my change color here as directed. This first block of color also was as directed, where no, it is not. You put in this color, but then you're supposed to, I don't know, I'd have to look at the picture again. Anyhow, I'm ignoring, because I'm not doing this all one color and just putting in the stripes of color. I'm going through the pattern after this yarn over, or just after this accent row here. I'm keeping that part of the pattern, and then I'm alternating it every section. And then what I've decided, that when I get down, I already put it away, she has that 3rd color. So I'm probably on this stripe right here. So when I get down to this section, I want to use up my yarn. I don't know, and actually this yarn would be too drapey for me for that cowl, because I like a cowl to bunch up and stick and be up around my neck and keep me warm and not just drape like a scarf. So I'm actually, this yarn would be too drapey for that cowl for me. So I want to use up as much of this yarn as possible. So after this section here, I might do small stripes, or maybe I'll do these 2 big stripes in my 2 colors, and then do a section of smaller stripes depending on how much yarn I have left. I don't know. But if there's enough yarn left over to make that cowl, there's going to be quite a bit of yarn left. I almost thought of doing mini stripes. I might just do, I don't know. Maybe do 1 big white stripe, or the multicolored stripe, and then do mini stripes after that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Depends on whether or not we're still inside. It could get a little crazy. You never know. All right. But anyway, so that's one of my works. A new cast on. Wasn't even on my radar. It's a brand new project, but I've got to skein these guys up. I've got this much yarn left, but again, extremely pleased with it. This yarn is amazing. So, but here it is upside down. So incredibly warm, but really looking forward to wearing this. Last summer I started working at a local floral shop in the summer. So when I'm not knitting in the winter, I was working with gorgeous, gorgeous flowers at a florist shop. And to keep flowers nice, you have to keep them cool. Well, I'd be wearing wool sweaters inside at the flower store when it was 85 degrees outside in the sunshine because it was nice and cool to keep the flowers fresh. So this will be perfect. Looking forward to wearing this summer. Okay, so I think that's all we're going to talk about. Oh, I've made progress on my Primrose crochet throw by Arne and Carlos. I just sat here one day and at the beginning of the lockdown and made all of these flowers, and there's more and more and more, and I wove all the ends in already. So Erin, you got to weave in the ends as you go. Makes it so much easier. Plus it breaks the project up a little bit. So now I'm in the process of, oops, everything's flying, putting them in. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be almost done with the body once because I'm not making a full size or anything, it's just a throw size. I plan on having this in the camper, which I'll have to give you a camper tour, Blue Betty. Maybe I'll put a picture in. I probably should get her out of storage this week, and I think she might need some new curtains this year. So, but anyway, you'll have a Blue Betty tour at a future podcast. But this is for her, and I'm tempted to skip the half flowers on the edge so that you have a straight edge. I might just crochet around it. I don't know. That'll look a little silly. I don't know. But anyway, so progress is being made. I've had this, oh my gosh. That's been in the basket for, I don't even know how long. 2 years? 3 years? But I don't work on it all the time. So, lots of flowers to go. So I've been working on that. Okay. I have a finished, now I think that's it for yarn. Yeah, that's it for yarn. Yeah, that's it for yarn. I have a finished object for sewing. Can't really see it too well, but this. Anyway, so we're moving on to sewing now and quilting. So if you have no interest in that, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you're here for whatever it is that is going to happen on this podcast, here we go. This is the Camber set by Merchant & Mills. Love this company. I've talked about them before. Drapersdaughter.com. It's in England. Everything I like to order seems to come from overseas. I think there are a few places you can find their patterns in the States, but you have to search. There's the Workroom, but they're in Canada. So I don't know. Love it. Absolutely love it. The pattern is extreme. If you're a beginning sewist and would like to sew something like this, I would highly recommend this pattern. Extremely well laid out instructions. The booklet instructions are wonderful. And here it is. I made it out of my favorite linen, Robert Kaufman. Essex linen, yarn dyed Essex linen. I've already worn it a number of times over a long sleeve t-shirt. Don't know what else to say. It is, I think I will definitely make this again. I have very broad shoulders, as you can see, like my t-shirt even. My shoulders are hanging out over my t-shirt. So my shoulders are quite a bit. The shoulder seam really could be another inch out. I don't know how to modify patterns like that. If you know of a good YouTuber, blog, vlog, whatever, that really describes basic beginner ways on how to modify patterns, that would be great. I think what I will do the next time I make this is take the next 2 sizes up for the top. It has a nice placket across the shoulder there. The neck was really interesting, the way they did this, the neck binding. But I think I might take, and of course it would have to be the sleeves also, because you gotta have the same, I'm just rambling here. What I'm gonna try is I'm gonna take 2 sizes up, because there's only like a 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch difference between sizes. So I'm gonna go 2 sizes up on the top and then lay it, and then and I do muslin or paper pieces. My husband has this ginormous roll of butcher paper. He's never going to use all of this. I mean, it's like this big round roll of butcher paper, and it's perfect for tracing patterns. So I've got it in here, and when he needs to use it, when he smokes a brisket or something, then he comes in and gets his paper and goes on his way. But I'm using it to trace patterns. It's perfect because you can see through it to trace the pattern, and it's stiff enough that it doesn't break or rip like the tissue paper on traditional patterns. I'm going to trace the 2 sizes up on the upper half and leave extra paper, and then somehow get it down into this here, because this all fits wonderfully. It is not baggy at all. It's just fits perfectly here, but this is a little tight, especially it's not as bad when I don't have a t-shirt on under it. But I'm going to try that and we'll see how it goes. But anyway, Merchant and Mills patterns are fabulous. I've made a couple of them now. Sorry, all my yarn was out from my Primrose thing. So that's a finished sewing object. I have other projects lined up, but now this one, I don't know if I've talked about this before. Jen Kingwell is one of my absolute favorite. I have talked about Jen Kingwell before because I've made one of her quilts. I've shown it before. It's upstairs on our bed now. Maybe I'll insert a picture if I'm still paying attention and editing. 2-3 years ago now, 2017. 2017, I ordered her Block of the Month quilt, not realizing, hang on a second. Where are they all? Oh. Okay. I ordered her Block of the Month quilt, not realizing that it was all templates. This is way too fussy for me to cut out all of these templates out of all of your No, I'm like, give me a rotary cutter, a ruler, and let's cut some strips and pieces and squares and get it done. And then this arrived and I was like, every month I've got to cut out all those shapes. So it sat here. It has sat here forever because I really had no interest. But look, and then you get all the fabrics. Look at those fun fabrics. Actually, I've used that one in my quilt that I made, the circle quilt. So it actually got to the point where I'm going to give these away and I'm going to keep the fabric. That's where I was at. Well, and a couple times I took them camping and I thought, well, when I'm sitting there camping, I can just sit there and I can cut the shapes out, and never happened. And this is called the Delilah. template of the month. Maybe I should have paid attention then it said template. I don't know. But now that we've got nothing to do, well, I shouldn't say that. Now that there's all the time in the world to do all kinds of things around the house, and I needed to save my hands because at the end of the dog walker, it took me a while to get through the dog walker because my hand started to hurt again. So then I had to put it away and not touch it for a while. And that's when I started crocheting a little bit more because my hands would not hurt with crochet. And so now my hands are fine. They feel back to normal and I'm knitting just fine. But in order to prevent that from coming back and to still keep my hands busy, I said, you know what? Let's get the templates out. So I haven't sewn them together yet, but I've done 2 of them where I went through all these templates like a square. Really? Why can't I use a rotary cutter? Why do I need a template for a square? But anyway, so these are all the leftover fabrics, but I'm keeping them all together in the month that they came in. And for instance, this is this pattern. And then it tells you how many blocks to make. And they're also a lot smaller than I was expecting. Like here's one of the squares. So we're just gonna put our head down and do it. But I have been sewing. I've been sewing masks. I would like to sew a garment. Oh yes. Wait till you see the next project. But I've got 2 of them. So 2 of them are cut and ready to go. They are by my sewing machine. But like I said, I have been sewing masks. Oh, they're over. I got a bunch over. But I've got a smaller size. I'm doing, great stash buster, by the way. So I'm doing 2 layers of the quilting cotton. I have washed these on Sanitize, hottest water possible to shrink the cotton, and then dried also on Sanitize, so extra long, extra hot. And then I'm also putting 2 layers of muslin in between. Again, also washed hot to shrink it. And so I'm doing quite a few of these. Then, let's see, and I'm making this, I don't have enough elastic. And plus, I don't know, and I've read that some healthcare workers, they're wearing the elastic so long for every single day in a row that it's hurting their ears. And then I also wanted these to be more size adjustable. So I'm making bias strips and sewing those across the top and the bottom. So I've been making a bunch of those. And using up a lot of fabric that I had no idea what was going to be used for. So that's a good thing. I have fabric that I've shown you before that, where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, come on. Yes. I have shown you this fabric before that I've been trying and trying and trying to come up. I couldn't find the right pattern. And I got 2 yards of it, I'm pretty sure. It's a rayon of some sort, I'm pretty sure. Rayon, yep. Oh, I'm just absolutely in love with this fabric. 2 yards, what in the world can I make with this? Well, it must have been an Instagram post because that's where I'm finding all of my patterns. Oh, here it is. And I wish they had a picture of the short sleeve version, because it was the short sleeve version that I saw that the light bulbs, fireworks went off, light bulbs, tornado sirens, everything went off. Like, that's it! That's the pattern for this fabric. Sew over it, Freya blouse, short sleeve. Look, short sleeve. It has a little keyhole on the collar and the ties. This is it. This is the pattern for this fabric. And normally I prefer the printed version, but again, well, closet case. Does this come from Europe? Probably. And with shipping and, you know, I don't know. So I just decided, you know what, I really want this one. I want to get started now because I can't wait for this to be this in a short sleeve with the frilly collar. Oh, and the keyhole and the sleeves have elastic with a little frilly edge. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so cute. So I ordered the PDF pattern. Jury is out. Whether it is not my preference. I will say it is not my preference. However, paying the shipping for a pattern, it's a spam. That's all we got our telemarketers. This is your final chance to extend your car warranty. Well, they've been calling for 5 years. So I mean, it was more economical to print this out, but the pattern itself used, I don't know, almost 20 pages. And then, well, no, I'm sorry, the instruction booklet. The pattern had, let's say I'm almost done. The pattern itself used 46 pages of paper, and they give you a square to make sure that you have printed out properly. And what you do is you put all these pages together and you match up the squares, which I started doing yesterday. It takes a long time. I've got, my whole desk is covered with some, I've been cutting it as I go. So for instance, here's, so you can see this is many sheets of paper, all taped together. And you got to make sure these guys are in line. But fine. The benefit is, because normally on my purchase patterns, like that Merchant and Mill, I don't cut that pattern and I trace out the pattern, which is fiddly, but not as fiddly as this. But with this, because I can just print it again if I really needed to make a different size in the future. So I'm cutting it directly to my size. I'm not making a separate pattern off of this one. So that's a sewing project in progress. And gosh, this is, I'm a lot quicker today than I was on, well, I rambled a lot on the last one because, as I already said, I was coming out of being in a mood the previous day. Oh, and I've got that circle quilt that I made last year for myself. I'm going to make another one for Christmas gift this year. And I'm making it out of Jen Kingwell. It's kind of hard to see. But, so I'm going to make another one of those. I'm going to use the polka dots again for the strips, and that's going to be a gift. I think that's about it for now. So I hope you are all well. I hope you are doing your best. You know, the good days and the bad days, take them as they come. Yeah, Michigan's been under a pretty big lockdown now. We have to wear, it's recommended, strongly recommended that you wear a mask. Going out to public, especially going into a store, stores do have the right to refuse service to anyone not wearing a mask. So that's where we're at with that. Just Friday, so today is Wednesday, so just 4 days ago, landscapers were allowed to get out and start working. Maintenance, outdoor maintenance, things like that. Construction still not allowed. Restaurants, no, of course. So hopefully things start to open back up here. But yeah, we've got a high school senior, so you know, she was really into senior year and the milestones and all of those things that seniors look forward to. Most do, some don't. But this is what it is. We don't have a choice. But we'll still have an open house for her when? I don't know. This summer. It was supposed to be May 23rd. I don't think it's going to be then. Our stay-at-home orders until May 15th as of right now. I hope it doesn't get extended. I mean, people need to start working and get out there, however it needs to be done safely. I'm an at-risk group, so I haven't gone to the grocery store. We sent our girls out to pick things up. My husband's gone to the grocery store. He wipes everything down when he comes back in. I have a genetic lung condition called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. I'll put a link below if that's something you're interested in, and asthma. So it's exercise-induced asthma, but I need to stay away from lung infection. Even during regular flu season, I'm on my kids. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I mean, we go through this every year. So that part is nothing new for my family. But now, of course, it's a little more serious. But anyway, so enough of that. I'm done. I'm done talking. Stay safe. It's the end of April, almost the 1st of May. Hopefully by the time I podcast again, the garden will be growing and people will be out and back to work, and I'm sure everybody will be wearing masks, or restaurants will be at half capacity maybe, but hopefully we'll be out. You know, you've been cooped up when an introvert looks forward to being around strangers at restaurants and talking to people. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.